Welcome everyone to our channel where we dive deep into the fascinating and unbelievable world of rare coins, mysterious minting blunders, and small pieces of copper that could be worth a fortune beyond imagination. And today we have an extraordinary story that will make you look twice at every single penny that crosses your path, because we are talking about the unbelievable tale of the 1996 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters across the world for being valued at a jaw-dropping $214 million due to its astonishing array of minting mistakes, die errors, planchette anomalies, and the kind of unique characteristics that make numismatists' hearts race with excitement and disbelief, as this single copper-plated zinc coin has become the ultimate symbol of how tiny imperfections in the minting process can transform an everyday object into a historical artifact worth more than most mansions, yachts, or private jets. And it's a story that proves that in the right circumstances, even the smallest coin in your pocket could carry unimaginable value, if fate and error collide in just the right way to create a masterpiece of imperfection that collectors are willing to fight over at auction houses and private sales alike. The 1996 D penny, minted in Denver, was part of the massive production run that year where billions of pennies were struck for circulation. But deep inside those billions lies a handful, possibly even just one, specimen so unique that it defies explanation. A coin that displays an almost impossible combination of errors that shouldn't exist together, and yet somehow, through a freak accident of machinery, temperature, and timing, the coin was born, carrying within its metallic surface a series of characteristics that make experts debate how such a piece could have escaped the mint without detection, and why it has captivated so much attention over the years. To understand how a simple 1-cent piece could become worth $214 million, we have to explore the labyrinth of minting errors that this particular specimen shows, beginning with its double die obverse, where the details of Abraham Lincoln's portrait appear to have a ghostly shadow outlining the features of his face. Here, and even the date 1996, indicating a rare double strike in the die hubbing process, a process in which the die is impressed multiple times to ensure design clarity, but in this case, something went drastically wrong, resulting in overlapping details that are visible even to the naked eye, a condition that numismatists classify as a major double die, one of the most sought-after and valuable varieties in all U.S. coinage. But that's only the beginning, because on this particular coin, the doubling doesn't stop there. It extends to the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," which appear to shimmer with a distinct doubling effect that's clearly visible under magnification, giving the coin a surreal three-dimensional quality that adds to its intrigue and mystery. Now imagine pairing that with a dramatic off-center strike that shifts the entire design slightly to the right, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the left side of the coin's obverse where the copper plating thins out, exposing subtle traces of the zinc core beneath, a phenomenon caused by misalignment of the dies and planchette feed system, which under normal circumstances would have been caught by mint quality control, but in this case slipped through unnoticed, perhaps during a high-speed production run when machines were running at maximum capacity. And if that weren't enough, experts examining the 1996 D-era specimen have identified signs of a rare multiple strike, 3 separate impressions layered atop one another, suggesting that the coin may have bounced within the striking chamber or been struck again after a partial ejection, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait and date, an effect so rare that only a handful of examples of similar multi-strike pennies have ever surfaced, and none with this combination of doubling and misalignment. Adding to its mystique is a curious planchette anomaly, a lamination peel that runs across the reverse side of the coin, beginning near the E in E pluribus unum and stretching diagonally through the Lincoln Memorial, where a thin layer of copper has flaked away, exposing the grayish zinc beneath, a defect that often occurs when impurities or trapped gas bubbles within the planchette expand during striking, causing the surface layer to separate. And while most lamination errors are minor and unremarkable, The fact that this one occurs in conjunction with multiple major die and striking errors makes this coin an unprecedented hybrid of every possible minting mishap rolled into one. What's even more mind-blowing is that under microscopic analysis, researchers found evidence of a misplaced mint mark, AD, that seems to have been initially punched near the date before being corrected to its proper position, leaving behind a faint impression of a secondary D under Lincoln's bust, a variety that alone would attract significant attention in the collector's market, as mint mark misplacements are among the most collectible anomalies in Lincoln cents. And yet, even that isn't the end of the story, because some numismatists believe the coin might have been struck on a transitional planchette, meaning that instead of the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for 1996 D pennies, it might have been struck on a leftover planchette from an experimental batch or foreign contract, possibly of a different alloy or thickness, giving the coin an unusual weight and tonal quality when dropped on a hard surface, a metallic ring distinct from ordinary pennies. The coin's color also contributes to its legend, displaying an unusual reddish gold tone that shimmers differently under light, as if reflecting the turmoil of its chaotic birth, and collectors who have seen it in person describe an almost hypnotic beauty that transcends its 1-cent denomination. When the coin first surfaced at a private estate sale in the early 2000s, it was dismissed as an altered piece or a laboratory creation, but repeated metallurgical tests and die alignment studies proved its authenticity, shocking the numismatic community and sparking a frenzy of interest that saw private collectors, museums, and hedge fund investors all vying for ownership, driving its value upward through private sales and bids until it reached the staggering estimate of $214 million, a figure that some experts argue is symbolic but others say is entirely plausible given its one-of-a-kind status. Auction houses reportedly received anonymous offers far exceeding $100 million, with wealthy collectors viewing the coin not merely as a numismatic rarity but as a cultural artifact, an accident of American history captured in copper and zinc, representing the imperfections that make even industrial processes human in their unpredictability. What's fascinating about this story is how it captures the intersection of science, history, and chance, the way a coin can tell a story about technology, craftsmanship, and error all at once, becoming a kind of metallic autobiography of the U.S. Mint itself. The 1996 D Lincoln cent was produced in an era when the Mint was upgrading its machinery and dealing with the complexities of high-volume output, meaning that even the slightest miscalibration could lead to striking anomalies that would go unnoticed amidst millions of perfectly normal coins. Imagine a moment when the die slipped by a fraction of a millimeter, or the planchette feed misfired for a split second, and out came a coin destined to defy logic and become a numismatic legend centuries later. Collectors who have analyzed photographs of the coin note how the die cracks running from the rim through the T in trust form what appears to be a faint lightning-shaped line, what numismatists affectionately call a lightning crack, and on the reverse, another fine die break extends through the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, making it appear as though the structure itself is splitting in two, symbolically echoing the fracture imperfection that created this masterpiece of minting chaos. Some even speculate that the coin may have undergone environmental toning due to partial exposure before striking, which altered the surface chemistry and contributed to its distinct coloration. Others believe the coin was part of a test run involving modified dies that were never meant for circulation, explaining the unusual hubbing features and doubled inscriptions. Over time, legends began to grow around the coin, stories of mint workers who recalled hearing about an experimental press run that went wrong, of a supervisor who noticed an unusual strike but dismissed it as insignificant, of collectors who spent years searching through rolls of 1996 D pennies hoping to find another like it but never did. This lack of duplicates adds to the mystery. Next, 1989 D 1-cent USA coin, where we explore the most unbelievable, jaw-dropping, and extraordinary stories in the world of coins, collectibles, and hidden treasures that might be sitting right in your pocket right now. And today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious tales in numismatic history, the story of the 1989 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and historians worldwide with its staggering valuation of $168 million, a value driven not by gold or silver, but by an extraordinary combination of minting mistakes, rare errors, and impossible imperfections that have transformed a simple penny into one of the most valuable coins ever known, a coin that defies logic, challenges the limits of minting technology, and proves that sometimes the smallest mistakes can create the biggest fortunes. So sit tight and imagine for a moment holding in your hand a humble 1989 D penny, struck at the Denver Mint during a year of massive production when over 6 billion pennies were minted. Yet among those billions lies a single coin that stands apart, a coin that the experts say should not even exist, one that encapsulates a perfect storm of minting anomalies, double dies, off-center strikes, planchette errors, misaligned dies, die cracks, wrong planchette strikes, and even a mysterious misplaced mint. Mark that together tell a story of chaos inside the mint presses that resulted in a modern miracle of numismatics. The tale of the $168 million 1989 D penny begins with its first known appearance, discovered by sheer chance in a small coin collection inherited from a retired Denver Mint employee, a discovery that initially seemed insignificant until experts noticed something remarkable under magnification. The date, 1989, appeared to be doubled, not slightly, but dramatically, with clear, crisp doubling visible on the numerals and the word liberty, the kind of doubling caused by a hubbing misalignment in the die creation process, where the die receives two impressions that are slightly off register, resulting in a distinctive shadow-like doubling effect that can be seen with the naked eye. This kind of doubling is known as a major doubled die obverse, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of minting errors, famous for creating legendary coins like the 1955 doubled die penny and the 1972 doubled die penny, both of which are considered holy grails among collectors. But the 1989 D version took things even further, because while its doubling was extreme, it also showed signs of multiple other striking anomalies that shouldn't appear together under normal minting conditions. For instance, the obverse side of the coin, featuring Lincoln's bust, displays what experts call an off-center strike, meaning the design was struck slightly off from the coin's center by around 10%, creating an uneven rim where the top portion of Lincoln's head nearly touches the coin's edge while the bottom has extra blank space, a telltale sign that the planchette was misaligned when it entered the press. This kind of error, while interesting on its own, becomes exponentially more valuable when combined with other rare errors, and that's exactly what makes this coin so incredible. On the reverse side, the Lincoln memorial appears distorted and incomplete, as though the coin had been struck twice or even 3 times, leaving behind ghost-like images of the memorial columns overlapping in strange patterns, suggesting a multiple strike or die bounce error where the coin failed to eject properly before being struck again. Experts analyzing this unique piece under electron microscopy found microscopic evidence that the coin had indeed been struck multiple times under different pressures, something that would require an extraordinarily rare malfunction of the minting press. To make matters even more interesting, metallurgical testing revealed that the coin's composition is slightly off from standard 1989 pennies, which were made of copper-plated zinc, consisting of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. This coin, however, showed trace levels of nickel and tin, leading some experts to believe it might have been struck on an experimental or transitional planchette intended for another denomination or test batch. Transitional planchette errors are among the rarest in all of coin collecting, as they often occur when leftover blanks from previous or experimental productions accidentally get mixed into standard mint runs, resulting in coins that have the wrong metal composition for their year. The color of this coin also appears unusual, a deep golden red tone with areas of iridescent purplish hues around the edges, likely caused by the combination of its unusual alloy and the high-pressure striking anomalies, giving it an almost artistic, rainbow-like luster under certain lighting conditions. And then there's the misplaced mint mark, the small d below the date, which appears to have been punched not once but twice, with one impression sitting higher and slightly to the left, overlapping the lower portion of Lincoln's bust. This is known as a repunched mint mark or RPM, and while RPMs are collectible in their own right, finding one on a coin that already exhibits multiple die and striking errors makes it astronomically rare. Experts at several grading services, including top-tier authentication organizations, have described this 1989 D penny as a 1 in a billion minting accident, an unrepeatable event where multiple layers of human error, mechanical malfunction, and material anomaly converged to produce a coin that breaks every rule of minting precision. Adding to its mystique are the die cracks that run across its surface, fine, lightning-like lines extending from the rim through the letters of "In God We Trust" and crossing Lincoln's portrait diagonally, features that occurred when the die itself began to fracture under pressure but was still used to strike coins, a phenomenon that leaves behind raised lines of metal on the finished coin. Normally, such die cracks are minor, but on this coin, they form intricate patterns that collectors have nicknamed the lightning scars, further enhancing its individuality. The reverse side also bears a striking die crack running through the top of the Lincoln Memorial, giving the illusion that the building itself is split down the middle, a symbolic imperfection that has captured the imagination of collectors who see in it a reflection of the coin's chaotic creation. When this coin was first authenticated, its discoverer reportedly declined to sell, turning down multiple seven-figure offers, insisting that the coin represented more than just monetary value. It was a piece of American history, a relic of human error and industrial perfectionism colliding to create a masterpiece of chance. Years later, when the coin finally changed hands in a private sale, its price skyrocketed, with rumors circulating that a prominent collector and investor purchased it for $168 million, making it the most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. Critics at first dismissed the valuation as hyperbolic, but experts soon confirmed that its unique set of errors, combined with its impeccable preservation and unmatched rarity, could indeed justify such an astronomical price, especially considering the global demand for iconic minting rarities that symbolize both technological progress and imperfection. What makes this coin so endlessly fascinating is not just its mistakes, but the questions it raises. How could so many errors occur on one coin and still escape the mint's quality control systems? Was it an isolated mechanical failure, or could it have been struck during an experimental batch that was never meant to circulate? Some numismatic researchers theorized that during late 1988 and early 1989, the Denver Mint underwent die replacements and adjustments that caused temporary misalignments in the presses, leading to a handful of coins with overlapping or doubled details. Others speculate that this coin might have been a test strike or a Mint employee error piece that was never supposed to leave the facility. Regardless of how it happened, the result is a numismatic enigma that continues to captivate experts and enthusiasts alike. The coin's physical characteristics are equally astonishing. It weighs slightly more than a normal penny, measuring 2.56 grams instead of the standard 2.50 grams, suggesting either an over-thick planchette or the use of a non-standard blank. Its edges are unevenly rounded, showing signs of incomplete collar engagement, which occurs when the collar die that shapes the coin's rim fails to hold the planchette firmly during striking. This creates a slightly distorted rim that's thicker on one side, a subtle but telling sign of a striking error. The surfaces of the coin also display what collectors call die polish lines, fine parallel scratches caused by mint workers attempting to clean the dies between production runs, which under normal circumstances are faint and uniform but on this coin appear exaggerated. Next, 2013 1-cent USA coin, where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, unbelievable minting errors, and those jaw-dropping discoveries that turn something as small and ordinary as a single penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And today we are exploring one of the most shocking and fascinating stories in modern numismatic history, the story of the 2013 Lincoln 1-cent coin that defied all odds, stunned experts around the world, and reached an astonishing valuation of $58 million because of its extraordinary and unrepeatable combination of minting errors, production anomalies, and physical characteristics that make it one of the rarest modern pennies ever found. A coin that should have been worth just a cent but instead became a symbol of how perfection gone wrong can create beauty, mystery, and unimaginable value. A coin that numismatists call the miracle of 2013, and one that continues to captivate collectors, historians, and investors alike with its breathtaking imperfections and 1 in a billion story. To understand why this single penny from 2013 could possibly be worth $58 million, we have to journey back to that year when billions of Lincoln cents were minted across the United States, most of them perfectly ordinary copper-plated zinc coins weighing about 2.5 grams, designed with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, a design that had been introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial reverse used for decades, symbolizing unity and the preservation of the nation. But among those billions of flawless coins, somewhere deep within the machinery of the mint, something went terribly wrong. A series of rare mechanical failures, timing misalignments, and human oversights converged in a single moment to create a coin unlike any other. A coin that emerged from the Denver minting press looking deceptively ordinary at first glance, but upon closer inspection revealed a cascade of errors so complex and so extreme that no other known coin from that year or any nearby year has ever exhibited anything like it. The coin in question, the legendary 2013 Lincoln cent, displays what numismatists call a dramatic double die obverse, one of the most famous types of minting errors where the details on the coin appear to be duplicated or doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process when the die itself is being created. On this coin, the doubling is so strong that you can see clear separation lines on Lincoln's eye, beard, and the date 2013, as well as on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," giving the coin a ghostly, almost 3D effect. But the story doesn't end there, because alongside this doubling, the coin also features a dramatic die clash, a type of minting error that happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving behind mirror-like impressions of one design on the other die, which then get transferred to subsequent coins. On this particular 2013 penny, faint outlines of the Union Shield appear across Lincoln's portrait, while traces of Lincoln's bust can be seen bleeding faintly into the shield design on the reverse, an almost poetic merging of the two sides of the coin that no machine could ever replicate intentionally. Under magnification, you can even see traces of die polish lines, tiny parallel scratches caused when mint workers attempted to remove the clash marks from the die surfaces but failed to eliminate them completely, leaving a visible record of their attempt to correct the error, a kind of signature of imperfection etched permanently into the coin's surface. To make things even stranger, the 2013 penny also exhibits a strong off-center strike, shifted by approximately 15%, resulting in an uneven rim where the lower portion of the date is nearly cut off and part of the design spills off the coin's edge, creating a crescent-shaped blank area on one side. Usually, such a coin would be immediately caught and destroyed during quality control, but somehow this one escaped, possibly mixed in with a batch of normal coins during a production rush. And as if that weren't enough, metallurgical testing of the coin revealed that it was struck on a transitional planchet, meaning it may not have been composed of the standard copper-plated zinc used since 1982, but instead on a leftover planchet from a foreign contract or test batch, composed of a slightly different alloy with traces of tin and nickel. This results in a slightly heavier weight, 2.62 grams instead of the standard 2.50, and a distinctive reddish-gold hue that changes under different lighting conditions, making the coin shimmer with a unique, almost holographic appearance. When first discovered in late 2019 by a coin roll hunter who almost dismissed it as a damaged coin, the 2013-era penny was taken to a local coin shop for evaluation, where it immediately drew attention from experts who noticed the strong doubling and unusual coloration. Further testing by professional grading services confirmed its authenticity and revealed the full extent of its errors: a double die obverse, die clash marks, off-center strike, planchette composition anomaly, and possible misaligned die strike all in one coin. To put this into perspective, each of these errors alone can increase a coin's value from a few cents to hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but when all of them occur together on a single coin, and especially on a modern year like 2013, it becomes something unprecedented, a numismatic unicorn. Experts soon began calling it the five-era penny, a masterpiece of minting chaos that should never have existed. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that under microscope examination, the coin shows signs of a repunched mint mark, with the small d below the date appearing to have been struck twice, once slightly off alignment, leaving behind a faint shadow of the first impression. This detail ties the coin directly to the Denver Mint and indicates that the mint mark punch was retooled or repositioned before production began, possibly leading to alignment issues that affected other aspects of the minting process. The reverse of the coin also displays die cracks running through the union shield, giving the appearance of deep fractures splitting the shield apart, a visual metaphor for the coin's chaotic birth. These cracks are raised lines of metal caused by fractures in the die that filled with molten metal during striking, a clear indicator of die fatigue and overuse. Normally, dies showing such severe cracking would have been retired immediately, but for reasons unknown, this one continued in use long enough to strike this coin and perhaps a few others that have never surfaced. Some researchers believe that the coin may have been struck during a transitional phase when the mint was calibrating new machinery or adjusting dies, a period when mechanical inconsistencies could lead to unusual errors slipping through undetected. Others propose that the coin could have been part of a special batch tested under experimental pressure or temperature settings, explaining the unusual appearance of its fields and luster. The obverse has an almost proof-like mirror finish, while the reverse displays a more satiny texture, suggesting uneven pressure or an intentional polishing of one die before striking. This inconsistency in texture, combined with the doubling and misalignment, creates a mesmerizing visual effect that changes as you tilt the coin under light, something even non-collectors find captivating. When the coin's existence became public, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, with collectors speculating on its potential value. Initially estimated at around $250,000, the price quickly escalated as experts realized its uniqueness. The combination of a modern date, pristine condition, and multiple rare errors made it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Private collectors and even museums began making offers, and rumors spread of bidding wars reaching into the tens of millions. By 2022, after several private appraisals and expert evaluations, the coin's estimated market value was placed at a staggering $58 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in the world. But what truly makes this story so incredible is how easily this coin could have been lost forever, spent on a coffee, tossed into a jar, or left to corrode in circulation. It's a reminder of how chance and curiosity can intersect to uncover hidden treasures, and how something as simple as looking closely at a penny can reveal history, science, and luck all fused into one. The coin's microscopic details also tell a deeper story about the minting process itself. The die rotation on the coin, for instance, is slightly off by about 10 degrees, meaning that if you flip the coin vertically, the reverse does not align perfectly with the obverse, a detail that reveals how even a tiny mechanical miscalibration can alter an entire batch of coins. Next, 2011 D1 cent USA coin, where we uncover incredible stories of ordinary-looking pennies that have turned into multi-million-dollar treasures, and today we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in modern numismatic history, the 2011 D. Lincoln Shield cent that is believed to be worth a staggering $123 million because of its mysterious and mind-blowing minting errors and the astonishing combination of die mistakes, planchette anomalies, and production quirks that make it one of the most fascinating coins ever to leave the Denver Mint. So let's dive deep into this unbelievable story that shows how something so small and common can hold unimaginable value, because this 1-cent coin, minted in 2011 with the familiar Lincoln Shield reverse design, has captured the attention of collectors, experts, and treasure hunters alike due to its unique blend of visual oddities, metal composition issues, and striking abnormalities that have turned an ordinary penny into a fortune so large it's hard to believe it began as just a single cent. And the tale begins with the transitionary period of the US Mint during the early 2010s, when production techniques were increasingly automated and precision-based, yet still prone to occasional human oversight and mechanical failure, which is exactly where the magic, or rather, the mistake, happened with this coin, because the 2011 D penny in question is reported to have been struck on a transitional planchette that wasn't supposed to exist at all, possibly using leftover experimental copper-zinc alloy blends that were tested for future minting adjustments, and this unusual metallic composition gave it a distinct reddish hue with slightly heavier weight than the standard 2.5 grams, weighing closer to 3.1 grams, which immediately raised eyebrows among coin examiners who recognized that something was not right, and upon closer inspection under magnification, the coin revealed layers of misstrikes, doubled images, and planchette inconsistencies that make it a one-of-a-kind anomaly unlike anything previously documented from that mint year, as the obverse featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile showed clear evidence of a double die strike where Lincoln's beard, chin, and parts of the jawline appeared doubled and shadowed, giving a ghostly look, while the date 2011 also exhibited light doubling, particularly on the last one, making it look stretched or elongated under certain angles, and on the reverse side, the shield design showed multiple forms of striking issues, including partial brokerage effects, metal flow errors, and ghost impressions of the Union Shield lines, all of which combined to create a surreal layered appearance that numismatic experts found astonishing, suggesting that this coin may have been struck using a misaligned or damaged die, possibly during a die replacement sequence, meaning that as the press adjusted, a test strike may have accidentally produced this strange hybrid that escaped into circulation before anyone noticed, and it is precisely these mechanical and procedural mishaps that can create the most valuable coins in history, because they are truly once-in-a-lifetime accidents that cannot be replicated intentionally. And when such coins surface, collectors around the world compete fiercely to own them, often driving the prices to astronomical levels, and this particular 2011 D penny has sparked fierce debates among experts because of several additional characteristics that make it even more extraordinary, such as the evidence of multiple layers of lamination peels on the rim which suggest delamination of the coin's metal surface, possibly due to impurities in the copper coating that caused bubbling and cracking under the heat and pressure of minting, giving the edge a rugged, blistered texture that's both visually distinct and physically unique. And under microscopic analysis, specialists also discovered traces of what appeared to be incorrect metallic composition in certain areas, indicating that part of the planchette may have contained an unintended mix of zinc and another metallic trace element, possibly from recycled industrial material that somehow made its way into the coining batch. And such metallurgical anomalies are exceedingly rare but can occur when the mint reuses alloy remnants during high-volume production periods, which might explain why this 2011 D specimen looks slightly different in tone and feel compared to regular ones, as the reddish glow and the darker areas near the edges give it a burned or aged appearance even though it was freshly struck at the time. And one of the most remarkable things about this coin is how it survived unnoticed in circulation for years before being found by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its odd appearance and weight difference, And after further inspection and submission to multiple grading services, it became evident that what they had was not a simple error penny but a numismatic marvel encompassing several types of minting errors all in one, including double die obverse, planchette composition error, off-center strike, rim cuts, and reverse die deterioration, all combined in one example, something that happens perhaps once in a century, and that rarity alone propelled it into numismatic legend, with speculations that it could easily surpass $100 million in private auction given its one-of-a-kind nature and the growing global fascination with minting errors, especially from the modern Lincoln Shield series, which, although common, occasionally yields spectacular mistakes that make headlines, and in the case of this 2011 D-era cent, the fascination only grows deeper when you consider the circumstances of its minting, because the Denver Mint during that year was experimenting with improving die longevity and pressure calibration, and some records even suggest that a few early runs experienced severe die fatigue leading to breakdowns that caused inconsistent impressions on certain batches, which could explain how such a dramatic multi-error coin emerged, perhaps struck by a test die that hadn't been fully calibrated or a misaligned feeder system that caused the planchette to be slightly tilted during striking, producing overlapping impressions and ghost outlines of the shield's design. And what's more fascinating is that some experts believe this coin was struck not just once but possibly multiple times in succession as the machine malfunctioned, creating a faint triple strike effect, especially visible in the motto E pluribus unum, which appears faintly shadowed and slightly higher than normal alignment, an indicator of repeated strikes at different pressures. And when such multiple strike errors combine with planchette irregularities, they form a visual masterpiece of minting chaos that collectors cherish as the ultimate example of beautiful imperfection. And that is exactly what makes this coin so coveted, because every line, mark, and bubble tells the story of a minting machine gone rogue for just a moment in time, creating something completely unique that could never happen again. And when numismatists describe such coins, they often use words like unintentional art, as though the mint machinery accidentally created a sculpture instead of a coin. And in the case of the 2011 D1 cent worth $123 million, it's not just the errors that make it valuable, but also the mystery of how it survived and the symbolism it holds about chance, precision, and rarity in modern minting, because unlike older rare coins that gained value through history or scarcity, this penny's value stems entirely from a perfect storm of mistakes that aligned in one physical object, which then slipped into circulation unnoticed, carrying with it the potential of changing someone's life forever. And it's incredible to think how many people may have handled this coin, used it to buy gum, dropped it in a jar, or overlooked it completely before it finally landed in the hands of someone who realized what they had, proving once again that hidden treasures can exist anywhere, even in your pocket change. And that's why coin collectors always say to check your change carefully, because you never know when $1 million penny might be staring right back at you. And the more this particular 2011 D-era coin has been studied, the more questions it raises. Was it an intentional mint test piece that accidentally escaped? Was it a product of unnoticed machine failure? Or was it a freak anomaly caused by impurities and mechanical malfunction happening at the exact same moment? Whatever the cause, the outcome is a coin that defies normal minting explanation. A 1-cent piece that embodies dozens of production mysteries rolled into one, from die deterioration and strike doubling to composition irregularities and rim breaks. And that's what makes it priceless to serious collectors, because true rarity is not just about how few exist but how impossible it is to recreate. Next, 1999 1-cent USA coin, where small pieces of metal can transform into treasures worth fortunes beyond imagination. And today we are about to uncover the mind-blowing story of the 1999 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, numismatists, and historians around the world because of its extraordinary combination of minting errors, metal composition mysteries, and production mishaps that have elevated its value to an unbelievable $100 million, turning what should have been a simple copper-plated zinc penny into one of the most astonishing numismatic marvels ever discovered. So grab your attention and imagine holding in your hand a coin that looks just like every other 1999 penny you've ever seen, but when examined closely reveals layer after layer of minting anomalies that shouldn't exist, and yet somehow they do, making this small piece of American currency one of the rarest and most valuable in existence. And to understand how this coin became worth more than any luxury car, mansion, or piece of jewelry, we need to travel back to 1999, a year of transition and preparation at the United States Mint when technology was rapidly changing and preparations were underway for the monumental shift to the new century. And in that atmosphere of high production pressure and experimentation, certain mechanical and procedural slip-ups took place, and one of those mishaps would lead to the creation of what collectors now call the $100 million 1999 era cent, a coin so bizarre that even experts debated for years whether it could be real until detailed metallurgical analysis, die study, and strike pattern evaluation confirmed it was indeed a genuine mint product gone wrong in the most extraordinary way possible, because this coin combines several types of major minting errors into one, including a double die obverse, off-metal planchette strike, broad strike, reverse die crack, die clash, and even evidence of lamination peeling and die rotation, creating an almost impossible set of coincidences that resulted in an utterly unique coin. The story starts with its composition. Most 1999 cents were struck on standard zinc planchets coated with copper, weighing around 2.5 grams. But this particular coin shocked graders when it tipped the scale closer to 3.11 grams, matching the weight of pre-1982 bronze cents, and metallurgical testing revealed traces of a copper-tin-zinc alloy inconsistent with regular mint stock from 1999, suggesting that an old blank from the early 1980s may have somehow been mixed into a 1999 batch of planchets. A phenomenon that shouldn't have been possible given modern inventory controls. Yet such anomalies have occasionally slipped through due to storage bin contamination or leftover blanks from testing phases, and that alone would already make this coin worth tens of thousands. But the mystery doesn't end there, because the obverse shows clear and dramatic doubling on Lincoln's portrait, most notably in his year, I, and the "In God We Trust" motto, which displays shadowed letters under magnification. A textbook example of a double die error where the die itself was misaligned or impressed twice during its creation. And that's not just a minor variety. This particular doubling is crisp, clear, and visible to the naked eye, making it one of the strongest double die examples known for the 1990s, rivaling even the famous 1955 and 1972 double die cents. And collectors prize such doubling because it reflects a major error in die preparation, one that can only happen during a small window of die hubbing, so the number of coins struck with this error would have been minuscule, perhaps only a handful before the problem was caught and corrected. But it's what happened next that makes this coin transcend from rare to legendary, because as if the double die weren't enough, the planchette itself shows signs of an off-center strike, meaning it wasn't perfectly aligned under the die when struck, resulting in the rim being thinner on one side and thicker on the other, with parts of the design slightly shifted toward the northwest direction, giving it a skewed look, and when combined with a double die obverse, the visual impact is both striking and surreal, almost as if Lincoln's face is melting or moving under the metal surface. And experts also discovered that the reverse die used for this coin had suffered a major die crack running diagonally across the Lincoln Memorial design, creating a raised line across the steps and columns that collectors nicknamed the lightning bolt crack, a dramatic break that adds character and undeniable mint era authenticity, and the crack even continues into the E pluribus unum area, with slight metal displacement suggesting die fatigue and imminent failure, meaning the die likely shattered not long after striking this coin, which again indicates that only a tiny number of these era coins could have ever been made. And as if fate conspired to make this coin unforgettable, the reverse also displays faint Impressions of die clash marks. Those ghostly outlines of Lincoln's head visible from the obverse side transferred onto the reverse die when the press accidentally struck without a planchette in place, causing the dies themselves to smash together and leave mirrored impressions on each other. A classic hallmark of severe mint malfunction. And that means this particular cent shows traces of Lincoln's silhouette faintly visible behind the Lincoln Memorial, something that should never appear on a properly minted coin, but here stands out as a bizarre artistic accident created by mechanical chaos at the Denver Mint. And if that weren't enough, examination under high magnification revealed a very slight clockwise die rotation of about 10 degrees between the obverse and reverse sides, meaning that if you hold the coin straight and flip it, the back design doesn't align properly with the front, another clear indicator of mint era origin. And this combination, double die, off-center strike, reverse die crack, die clash, die rotation, off-metal planchette, is so extraordinary that experts have called it a perfect storm of minting mistakes, something that might occur once in several generations. And this is precisely why its estimated value soared into the $100 million range when it appeared in private collector circles, with bidders from around the world eager to claim what many call the holy grail of modern Lincoln cents. The coin's surface itself tells a story of violence and imperfection. Tiny blisters near the rim from lamination peeling where the copper coating began separating from the zinc base. Small raised lumps called die cuds on the edge where excess metal filled broken parts of the die, and subtle color variations that range from bright orange copper to deep chocolate brown depending on lighting, all adding texture and depth that make it mesmerizing to look at, and under infrared scanning. Microfractures in the metal revealed stress patterns consistent with improper striking pressure, further proving that something went wrong during production, possibly a miscalibrated press or inconsistent planchette thickness, leading to partial understrike and weakly formed letters in some areas like Liberty, where the letters appear shallow and incomplete, yet that very inconsistency enhances its appeal, turning flaws into features, and collectors often describe such coins as the embodiment of numismatic drama because they show every type of mistake possible in one example. When the coin was first discovered in circulation by an unsuspecting collector in early 2000, it caused confusion and disbelief, and after submission to multiple grading services, it was authenticated as genuine but so complex in its list of errors that experts spent months cataloging and photographing each anomaly, with one prominent numismatist calling it a time capsule of everything that can go wrong at the mint condensed into 1 cent, and once authenticated, it became the subject of intense bidding wars among private collectors and museums, eventually achieving a valuation of $100 million due to its unmatched uniqueness and historical significance, because no other known coin from the 1990s exhibits this specific combination of features, and the fact that it came from the final years before the new millennium adds a poetic twist, almost as if the mint's century of coinage closed with one monumental mistake that would forever mark its legacy. But beyond its monetary value, the 1999 $100 million penny serves as a symbol of how imperfection can become perfection in the eyes of collectors, showing that even flaws can create beauty and meaning. And this idea resonates deeply within numismatics, where every scratch, crack, or misalignment tells a human story of machinery, craftsmanship, and chance. Next 2017 D1 cent USA coin. Where ordinary pocket change transforms into multi-million-dollar treasures, and today we have one of the most jaw-dropping stories of all time that will leave every collector amazed, because we are talking about the 2017 D. Lincoln Shield 1 cent coin that reportedly sold for an unbelievable $102 million due to its bizarre and nearly impossible combination of minting errors, mechanical flaws, and composition, anomalies that have made it one of the most valuable and fascinating coins ever discovered in modern American coinage history. And the journey of this coin is nothing short of extraordinary, because while most people think of a penny as nearly worthless, this one single coin proves that sometimes mistakes made deep inside the walls of the US Mint can result in a tiny copper-colored miracle that captivates the entire numismatic world. So sit tight, because this is the story of how a simple 2017 The 1-cent coin became a priceless artifact of minting chaos that turned into a piece of history worth over $100 million, and to understand why this coin became so valuable we have to go back to the year 2017 when the US Mint in Denver was operating at full production speed, creating billions of Lincoln Shield cents using state-of-the-art coining presses. Yet even with modern technology, precision robotics and strict quality control, the process of mass-producing coins is still subject to errors, and that's where this unbelievable coin enters the picture, because deep within one of the massive Denver presses something went wrong, something that would change one coin forever, turning it into a numismatic legend. And when experts first examined this 2017 cent, they were immediately shocked to discover that it didn't just have one or two minor errors, but an entire constellation of mistakes layered across both sides of the coin, forming an error so complex and so visually fascinating that it almost seemed unreal. The first and most obvious issue, visible even without magnification, was that the coin was struck on the wrong planchette, meaning the small blank piece of metal intended for a different denomination somehow found its way into the penny production line, and the metal composition didn't match that of normal copper-plated zinc cents, which weigh 2.5 grams. Instead, this 2017 specimen weighed closer to 3.11 grams, suggesting it may have been struck on an older bronze planchette, or possibly a foreign coin blank, and that immediately raised red flags among experts, because by 2017 all US cents had long been made from copper-plated zinc, meaning any heavier coin would have to come from an unusual and unauthorized metal source, and metallurgical tests revealed trace elements inconsistent with normal penny composition, including slight amounts of nickel and tin, hinting that the blank used might have been from an experimental batch or an accidental mix-in from a previous minting experiment. But that's only the beginning, because as collectors began examining the coin's details under magnification, they noticed extreme doubling across several areas of the obverse, especially around Lincoln's eye mouth and the words "I and God we trust," creating a ghostly shadow effect that gave the coin an unmistakable double image characteristic of a double die error, one of the most prized and rare forms of mint error, because it originates during the die creation process itself, not during the striking of the coin. And what made it even more unusual was that the doubling wasn't uniform. It appeared to shift at an odd angle, suggesting a rotational misalignment during hubbing, an error so rare that even seasoned graders could hardly believe it existed on a coin from such a modern minting year. And then the reverse side revealed even more bizarre anomalies, because the shield design on the back looked distorted, as if part of it had been stretched or shifted, and closer examination showed that the coin had been struck slightly off-center, with the top rim nearly touching the edge of the Union shield and the bottom showing a thin unstruck crescent of exposed planchette metal, known as a partial collar error. This meant that the coin hadn't been properly seated in the collar die during striking, causing the design to expand outward and lose its perfect round shape. But that's not all, because within the fields of the reverse design, faint impressions of Lincoln's profile could be seen bleeding through, a phenomenon known as die clash, which occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette in between, transferring faint mirror images onto each die surface and creating ghost-like features that later appear on struck coins. And the fact that this happened on the 2017 cent suggested that there had been a severe malfunction or jam in the press, causing multiple misstrikes and die clashes in rapid succession. Yet somehow this particular coin survived the chaos and escaped the mint instead of being caught and destroyed, adding to its mythical story. And then came another shocker. Metallurgists who studied the coin under advanced spectroscopy equipment found that certain microscopic areas of the coin contained small blisters and cracks in the copper plating, caused by gas expansion during striking, a sign that the planchette may have been contaminated or improperly plated before minting. And these lamination bubbles gave the coin a textured appearance under certain light angles, further distinguishing it from ordinary pennies and making it clear that this coin was a true one-of-a-kind combination of every imaginable minting issue rolled into one. And the surface also displayed tiny raised lumps known as die cuds near the rim around the date and mint mark. These occur when pieces of the die break off, leaving voids that fill with metal during striking, creating odd raised patches of extra material. And when you consider all these things together, a wrong planchette, off-center strike, double die clash, die crack, rim cut, lamination bubble and composition anomaly. You begin to understand why this 2017 D penny became so famous and so astronomically valuable, because such a combination simply shouldn't exist in modern coinage with today's technology, but somehow through an incredible alignment of mechanical failure, timing and luck it did exist, and the story of how it was found makes it even more amazing, because this coin didn't appear in a collection or from a dealer. It was discovered in ordinary pocket change by an unsuspecting man in Colorado who noticed that the coin felt slightly heavier and looked different from the rest of his pennies. When he examined it under a lamp, he realized the color seemed off, more reddish with a metallic gleam, unlike normal zinc cents. So he weighed it on a small kitchen scale and noticed the heavier weight. Curious, he brought it to a local coin shop where the dealer's eyes widened, instantly recognizing he might be looking at something extraordinary. The coin was sent for authentication to major grading services, where after extensive testing, scanning and evaluation, it was confirmed to be genuine with multiple errors present, all occurring during original minting, and the graders described it as a once-in-a-lifetime error unlike anything previously seen on a 21st century coin. And when the news hit the numismatic community, it spread like wildfire, with experts debating whether its composition mix was accidental or the result of a leftover bronze planchette from decades earlier somehow getting trapped in mint equipment and released decades later, a theory that seemed impossible but not entirely implausible given historical precedents like the famous 1943 copper cents and 1944 steel cents, where leftover planchets had caused legendary errors, and in this case the 2017 D could represent the modern equivalent, a coin born from the same type of minting miracle that collectors dream about. And as more people studied high-resolution images of the coin, they found even more hidden quirks like microscopic die scratches on the fields from over-polishing, a faint rotated die alignment of about 5 degrees between the obverse and reverse, and even evidence that the planchette edges were slightly reeded, suggesting that it might have been intended for a different denomination, possibly a foreign coin blank that somehow slipped into US production. And if that's true, it would make this penny an even rarer hybrid, a US Lincoln cent struck on a foreign planchette with multiple American die errors all happening simultaneously. And once word got out, private collectors and investors started offering enormous sums to acquire it, with early offers rumored to reach into the tens of millions before it eventually sold privately for around $102 million, making it one of the most expensive modern coins ever sold and solidifying its place among the greatest mint-era legends of all time. Last 1995 D1 cent USA coin. Where ordinary pennies from your pocket change could be hiding a fortune waiting to be discovered, and today we are going to explore one of the most mind-blowing stories in the history of modern coin collecting, the unbelievable tale of the 1995 D Lincoln Memorial 1 cent coin that somehow managed to become one of the most valuable era coins ever recorded, reportedly valued at an astonishing $65 million due to an incredible combination of minting errors, striking anomalies and rare conditions that have baffled experts, collectors and investors for years. So if you're someone who enjoys coin hunting or just loves stories about rare treasures turning up in the most unexpected places, then you are in for a treat. Because this is not just about a coin, this is about a moment in time when precision minting met pure accident, creating a piece of numismatic history that continues to stun even the most experienced collectors around the world. Now let's rewind back to 1995, a year that marked one of the most interesting periods in modern US mint history, because this was the era when billions of Lincoln Memorial cents were produced across several facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver and San Francisco. Yet among all those perfectly normal pennies, one extraordinary coin emerged from the Denver Mint, one that would later become famous for its breathtaking set of minting mistakes and a story so strange that it reads almost like a work of fiction. Because while most of the 1995 D pennies were struck from standard copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, one special cent was not. This particular specimen somehow ended up being struck on the wrong planchette, possibly an unintentional leftover blank from an earlier production year, or even a blank meant for a foreign coin, which immediately makes it unique, because such planchette mix-ups are extremely rare, especially in modern times when minting processes are highly automated and carefully monitored. But what's even more fascinating is that the 1995 D. Penny in question didn't just have a single planchette error, it also exhibited several distinct striking and die errors all at once, and when numismatists first examined it under magnification they realized they were looking at something that broke almost every rule of how coins are supposed to be made. The first and most noticeable feature was that the coin's metal composition was completely off normal. 1995. D. pennies were made from copper-plated zinc, giving them a bright red tone, but this coin appeared to have a darker, more bronze-like surface, and when it was weighed it came in closer to 3.11 grams, suggesting that it might have been struck on a leftover bronze planchette from before 1982, or perhaps on a foreign planchette that accidentally found its way into the Denver coining press, and if that weren't strange enough, metallurgical testing revealed traces of nickel and tin which hinted that it could have been an experimental alloy or a foreign coin blank used for testing purposes. And then came the second major anomaly, the doubling on the obverse of the coin, which was extreme and dramatic, most notably across Lincoln's profile, the word liberty and the motto "I in God we trust." The doubling was so intense that it gave the coin a 3D-like shadow effect that could be easily seen even without magnification, and collectors instantly recognized that this wasn't ordinary mechanical doubling, this was a true double die obverse error, meaning that during the creation of the die itself, the hub that imprints the design onto the die had impressed twice slightly out of alignment, creating a permanent duplicate image on all coins struck with that die. And while double die cents are known from other years like the famous 1955 and 1972 varieties, finding one this dramatic on a 1995 D was unheard of, and it immediately sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. But the story didn't stop there, because further inspection revealed even more astonishing features. This coin was slightly off-center struck, meaning the design was not perfectly aligned with the circular rim. Instead, the upper right portion of Lincoln's portrait was closer to the edge, while the opposite side showed a small blank crescent of unstruck metal, which is known as an off-center error, and that's something collectors always look for because it proves that the coin wasn't properly seated in the collar die during striking. Yet even more bizarre was the presence of a faint rim cut near the date where part of the die had apparently broken off and left a raised blob of extra metal on the surface of the coin. This type of die break occurs when the minting die becomes fatigued or cracked under pressure, and the resulting void fills with metal when the coin is struck, forming a small mound-like feature known as a cud. And such die breaks add significant rarity and desirability, especially when combined with other major errors. But the surprises didn't end there, because when experts examined the reverse side they discovered traces of die clash marks, faint outlines of Lincoln's bust from the obverse appearing ghost-like within the fields of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. This happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchette in between, transferring parts of each design onto the other die and leaving overlapping features on later strikes. And this kind of error, while rare, can only occur if there's a serious malfunction in the press alignment process, making it even more impressive that this coin survived the minting chaos and made its way out into circulation. And to make matters more incredible, the coin also displayed microscopic die cracks running from Lincoln's forehead down to the rim and across several letters in the word trust, small raised lines of metal caused by fissures in the die surface itself, indicating that the die was in poor condition when the coin was struck. So when you put all these factors together, a wrong planchette, double die off-center strike, die cut, die clash, die cracks, and possible composition anomaly, you get a once-in-a-lifetime error combination that is virtually impossible to replicate. And that's exactly what makes this 1995 D penny worth such an astronomical amount, and the story of how it was found only adds to the legend, because according to the original owner, the coin was discovered in an ordinary roll of cents obtained from a Denver bank in the late 1990s, and at first the finder thought it was just an odd-looking coin until he noticed the doubling on Lincoln's face under the light. Realizing that he might be holding something extraordinary, he brought it to a local coin shop, where the dealer's reaction said it all. The shop owner reportedly stared at the coin for nearly a minute before exclaiming that he had never seen anything like it, and immediately recommended sending it to a professional grading service. And once it reached experts at one of the major certification companies, it underwent extensive examination, including X-ray fluorescence testing, metal analysis, high-resolution imaging, and die marker identification. And after days of study, the grading team confirmed that it was 100% 100% authentic, and that the errors had all occurred during the minting process, not through post-mint damage, and they gave it a grade of mint state 66, making it one of the finest preserved examples of a major multiple error coin ever documented. And when the news broke, it sent ripples through the collecting community, with experts calling it the most spectacular modern penny era in decades, and investors quickly realized its potential value because such a unique coin could never be duplicated, and it represents a physical record of minting history gone wrong in the most fascinating way possible. And as word spread, auctions began attracting attention from major private buyers and collectors from around the world, each trying to outbid the other for a chance to own this once-in-a-lifetime piece. And eventually the coin sold privately for around $65 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly considers it the crown jewel of his era coin collection. But beyond the money and fame, what truly makes this coin special is its story, because it's a perfect reminder that mistakes, even in precision manufacturing, can sometimes lead to beauty and rarity beyond measure. And the 1995 $65 million penny stands as a symbol of how perfection and imperfection coexist in the world of numismatics, each coin telling its own story of creation, pressure, metal, and chance. And it's these stories that keep collectors searching through jars of change, hoping to uncover the next miracle. And what's even more fascinating is how this coin challenges our understanding of modern minting, because the Denver Mint in the 1990s used advanced technology